What we're talking today about is about the Mayan Aztec UFO connection. And what the video presentation was talking about is a lot of things that they have found throughout Mexico over the last 10 years or so, and 10, 15 years in these private collections. The problem is, before everything that was found in Mexico had to go into museums. Today, if museums want things, they have to pay market price for it, a market value. Museums are broke. So, a lot of things are now ending up in private collections. And in Mexico, these private collections are massive. These items still cannot leave the country, but you can have them in your collection. Now, the difference between private collections and being in museums was only showing 10 to 20% of what was in their collections. And museums like to show things that match historical record. A lot of things that's in these private collections are not matching things that are going along with the historical record, which bring up the big question. How many things in museums that don't match historical record are just hidden away in drawers or vaults forever, which never see the light of day? And if this is true, then what we're being taught in history books is a lie. Because history needs to tell what history is, not just teach history as a religion and just teach history as it has to match. And this is what we keep finding out over and over and over again, is that a lot of things that we was taught in books is not true or need to be updated or modified. And a lot of people are against this. And what is people are doing with these private collections that are everywhere? There's several private collections in Mexico. Some of this stuff is just totally mind-blowing. It's showing that that not only who the gods of the Mexicans were. These was what we would consider today to be great alien beings. And these aliens actually, it appears as they actually lived among the people. And they was worshipped by the people. And they're showing things that we never seen before. They're showing aliens with families and things like that. We never seen aliens with families. We don't know anything. Okay. The aliens doesn't interact with us today. They have their society. We live our society. But this is what, again, remember, after Zeus was overthrown by his son Apollo, Apollo wanted separations between man and God. And that is how things have been ever since. And basically, we live totally separate from them and they live separate from us. And because of this, you don't have interaction today. So we don't know anything about their society, their culture, what they do, what they eat, anything. Okay. By looking at these cave paintings and things and what people have in their private collections, it seems like the ancients was a lot more attached and their society was closely more aligned with these groups. And unfortunately, as I mentioned in the video, this will probably how things will be, which we was talking a few weeks ago, about after they do the fake alien invasion and man and alien is back together again. Okay. Where you might just have an alien neighbor living out down the street. Okay. You get what I'm saying? We get to taste alien food. Who knows? Could be bad, could be good. We have to try it. Okay. And this is going to be very shocking and just totally different. But in the case of the Mayans, this bring up a lot of very strange things. Because one thing, which is very disturbing, when the conquistadors went to Mexico and asked, why are you doing so many animal sacrifices? Why are you doing so many human sacrifices? They was told that the gods demanded. Okay. So, what were they doing with all this blood that was being spilt in their name? This is not only in the Aztec. This goes back into the old religious texts and Hindu text, which they was doing a lot of animal sacrifice. Or in the Bible they had to. In the Book of Jubilees, they talk about how they had to kill so many thousands of this and so many hundreds of this animal and this and that and everything, and they was doing massive sacrifices. Okay. Today in religion, we don't do any sacrifices. The Buddhists is the only one who are still doing animal sacrifices. And there is a worldwide movement to stop them from doing animal sacrifices. But they're the last large religious group which are still doing animal sacrifices today. Everyone else have stopped. Okay. But what were they doing with this blood? We talked about some of the things that they do with blood, which is built in their name. And this might have been a way to control the people. We do not know. Unfortunately, so much was destroyed by the conquistadors. Remember, they wrote back to Spain that Mexico City was one of the largest cities in the world, and how sophisticated the market was, and how they was bringing products from hundreds of miles away, and how the city didn't have any diseases, and they had an aqueduct system, and they had a sewer system, and they had this, and they had that, and they had this, and they had that, and then they burnt and destroyed the entire city down. Okay, that's what you do. So, if it's too wonderful, you have to burn it down and rebuild it. And when they rebuilt Mexico City, the city had typhoid, the city had this, the city had that, it was just like any other European city. It was a disaster. Okay. But if it was so wonderful, why did they destroy it? Maybe this is one of the reasons why our alien friends are leery of us. Because we do not go out to seek knowledge. We do not go out to try to befriend anyone. We go out to destroy, conquer, and conquest. And this is what we did in Africa. This is what we did in Central and South America. This is what we did throughout the Pacific Islands. This is what we did everywhere. And Reagan was saying that he wanted the United States to be the first nation to conquer space. Do space need to be conquered? Or are we going out there to investigate? Okay. And maybe some of our alien friends don't want to be conquered. And if we go out there with that little conquering attitude, we might just piss them off. Okay. Maybe that's why they avoid us. Okay. We're not that friendly. Okay. And, there's so much which is going on. But you really need to see these videos. And I believe that this is just the tip of the iceberg of what is going out there. Okay. And just in Mexico, just because they're finding things in private collections, we have no idea what's going on in the rest of the world. Okay. Was this just a Mexican thing where aliens and man was interacting, or was this a worldwide phenomena? But when we read in the books, the Greeks and the gods lived together. The Egyptians and the gods lived together. In Sumer, the gods and man lived together. But in all of those cases, they was not allowed to make any depictions of the gods. Okay. And this is why in Egypt or in places, when they did make depictions, they show them of being half animal, half man, or this or that. They do not show, even in classic Mexican art, where they show Quetzalcoatl or whatever, he's not shown. He's shown as a half animal, half person. Okay. For some reason, these cave pieces that they're finding now, they're showing things as there is no animal with depiction. Okay. This is even talked about in the Bible, where the Israelites worked with God, but it was against the Bible against Jewish law to make any depictions of God or representations of the heavens or anything like that. So most of the things we think about angels was created after the fact. And we believe today that angels look like first century Roman soldiers. That's what we believe angels look like, and they dress like first century Roman soldiers. Okay. And Muslim angels look like 7th century Islamic soldiers. Okay. Is that just because is that how we want them to look? Do they actually look that way? We have no idea, because we're imposing our views and our interpretations on these things. Okay. Today, what we're seeing today, and what is being shown in these Mexican cave pictures in these private collections, is that their gods look exactly like regular gray aliens. Okay. They just look like grays. And maybe the grays was worshipped as God because they have the technology. And the other thing which is very alarming about what you see in a lot of these pieces of art, okay, is that, remember, we was told that everything we know about UFOs go back to 1947, and the word UFO and all this stuff goes back to those B-rated 1950 movies that we saw, and that is where we get all this craziness from. Okay, now if everything goes back to the 40s and 50s, then how can things be hundreds of thousands of years old and they're showing exactly what we have today? They're showing craft that look exactly like the craft we have today. This means that, again, we've been lied to. But, of course, you're not surprised to hear that. We've been lied to a lot. Okay. And we like to be lied to, because it makes us feel good. When we ask, are we allowed, this is why the Air Force said in the 1960s, is that, the knowledge of UFOs must be hidden from the public. Because if the public ever found out if there was life beyond the earth, that all civilization, government structure, and all institutions would immediately collapse. I do not believe that's true. I do not believe that if we found out tomorrow that life exists on another planet, that we would all just climb to the top of our cars and or the top of our houses and jump off. That we would just get in our cars and just run off of cliffs and just commit mass suicide. I do not believe that. Okay. But I believe the reason they told us this is because we live in a control structure. And that's all government is a control structure. And they have us controlled. And if the control is broken, then who knows who would have control. And that's what you see in some of these movies, like the movie V or whatever, or the movie Alien Nation or whatever, that if alien life do come and live among us, it would create total change in our religion, total change in our economic system, because a lot of things we just take for granted. We just take for granted that gold is valuable. Who told us that gold is valuable? Okay. Maybe gold is not valuable. And what most people don't know is that the people in southern South America, in Peru and whatever, they used to make their gutters out of gold. Now, if gold was so valuable in Peru, why was the gutters of their houses made out of gold? That doesn't sound very valuable. And in Peru, gold was known as the urine of the gods. That does not seem very valuable. See, a lot of things that we have just taken for granted because we was just taught a certain way. And to learn differently is very disturbing. What you mean gold is not valuable? What you mean gold was described as the urine of the gods? Okay, urine doesn't sound very valuable. Why do we praise gold so much? Who knows? Okay. So would be the problem if the paradigm shift up on the earth did change. It would make a lot of changes, and it would create a lot of disturbances to a lot of people. It would ruffle a lot of people's feathers. And just like with any big invention, just like with the invention of the computer, a lot of the status quo collapsed. If you look back, 50 years ago, a lot of the big major companies are not big and major anymore. National Cash Register Corporation, IBM, and all these other ones, they're not big like they used to be. And a lot of the big companies that exist today, like Google and Facebook, they didn't even exist 10, 20 years ago. Okay. This is what's wrong with paradigm shift. And this is what would happen to us if we moved forward. This is why they want to keep us trapped in this very narrow-minded, very focused thing about, this is why they keep promising us flying cars. And if you look at a car today and a car from 1950, it really hasn't changed that much. Okay. And in 2234, it's not going to change that much either if they have their way, because they want to keep in control. And for Exxon and these big oil companies to stay in control, we must keep the cars basically the way they are. Okay. But this is keeping man from moving forward. This is keeping us in the bottle. This is not allowing us to grow. And if we was to have, and there's a movie that talks about this, there's always a movie, because I told you movies are secret society films. If you see the movie Star Trek First Contact, it talked about that when the Vulcans first came to the Earth after World War III, the people on the Earth was very primitive and backwards. And they only came to this planet because one guy took a nuclear bomb and turned it into a spaceship, and they picked up a warp signature, and they landed on the Earth, and within 100 years, the Federation existed, and the Earth was over the Federation. Now, if that never would have happened, this is why the movie First Contact was about, because they had to make sure that guy, they went back in time and made sure that guy did that flight, because the history of time got changed, and if he didn't take that flight with that nuclear missile into space, the Vulcan ship wouldn't have picked up that signature, they wouldn't have landed, and all of history would have changed. Is history that... Oops, I'm under cat attack. The cat's... Okay. But anyway, is history that fragile? One little tiny deviation and all is lost. Okay. But maybe it is. What would have happened if the Wright brothers would have got in a car accident? I mean, they would have got in an accident the week before they flew their plane. Would that have changed all of history? Okay. You understand? So we do not know. But the only thing we know is that we are sitting on the edge of a very bright future right now. Because the people that run this planet, which is not us, they have given us permission to cross to the other side. They're going to let us go. They're going to give us the opportunity. That's all they're offering us, is an opportunity. And that opportunity could turn out into a wonderful future of 100, 200 years from now, where we are living like in Star Trek or in Babylon 5, or it could be 100 years from now where we're living in some nightmare future where we're just slaves to them, and they are our overlords. We have a choice. Okay. And this is why the future, when people talk about the future, they talk about how terrible it's going to be, or how wonderful it's going to be, because we are at that precipice. We have to, the road we're on is coming to an end. We have to go to the left or to the right. One road leads to diamonds. One road leads to the abyss. Okay. We have to choose the right road. Okay. And it is nice to say, well, it's up to our leaders, it's up to this and whatever, but it's up to us. Okay. We have to fight. We have to stand up. So, this is what is going on. And as I said in the video, it said at the end of time, all things will be revealed. And if you've just been thinking about what's been going on in the last few years, if you've just been listening to my podcast for the last year, I have went over some crazy stuff. Totally crazy. Stuff that are mind-blowing. Okay. Stuff that people didn't even know about years ago. We are moving forward at warp speed. As I was talking about last week, we now can pick up alien communications. Within a few years, we might be communicating and having conversations with them. Okay. Now that we are able to pick them up. Okay. We are moving, we have the potential to turn this world back into a paradise. We have the potential. But we have some massive problems that we have to solve. And we're running out of time. This is what we're going to talk about tomorrow. The methane apocalypse. We have some massive problems that if we don't hurry up and solve these massive problems, we're not going to have to worry about the future. Okay, because there's only going to be a handful of us left. Because certain things are going on this planet, just like those fires in California, and there's fires in... See, why is there fires everywhere? The planet we're on, we have just totally destroyed it. Okay. And if we don't hurry up and straighten this place up, there's not going... the Earth is going to still be here, minus us. Okay. But this is the choice we have to make. It's just like that kid. Once your room gets so bad and roach infested and this and that, and it's to the point where you can't even, you got to do something. And mom just get tired, and mom just go in there with a big garbage bag and just throw out everything. And when she get finished with your room, it's spotless. Oh, your stuff is missing, but it's spotless. This is what happened in the flood of Noah's day. Okay. Do we really want, and people say, oh, I can't wait for God to clean up this world. I can't wait for God to solve all of our problems. He's going to get his big garbage bag out. Okay. Boys are going to be clean. Okay. But how many of us is going to be left? Or we can clean up our own room. And if you clean up your own room, you don't throw all your stuff out. You could take your comic book collection and stack it neatly and put it in a box. You don't throw it out. You can take all your toys and put them away. They don't get thrown out. Okay. So either we can clean up our mess, we can clean up all these problems and all this other stuff we're doing, or they're going to clean it up. Okay. If they clean it up, it's going to be very bad. Very, very bad.